Chris Smalls calls out the fake Zionist progressive left for being completely radio silent after Israel kidnapped and tortured him.
Bernie and AOC in particular, they've been traveling the country with this fake-ass white oligarchy tour. And when they're doing this tour, they're telling the crowd that Israel has a right to defend itself. That's what they're doing. So am I surprised that they didn't speak up? Yeah. But at the same time, they're showing their true colors right to y'all. They're not my senators. They're not my elected officials. And I can tell you who mine is. Who's another POS? Cory Booker. I'm from New Jersey, so the list goes on and on. All of these politicians, it's a bipartisan genocide. We know that. We got to escape the two-party system. That's the bottom line.
AOC used Chris Smalls for a re-election campaign and tried to tie Chris Smalls to her in order to rehabilitate her massively unpopular image. Now that Chris Smalls have taken a principled, anti-genocide position accompanied with direct action, AOC wants nothing to do with him and won't even mention the crimes that Israel committed against him. People really underestimate how evil these progressive scumbags are. And the question we should be asking is, why wouldn't AOC or Bernie Sanders say anything about what happened to Chris Smalls? It's a political slam dunk. It would give the illusion that Bernie Sanders and AOC actually gives a damn and not actually complicit with this. All they had to do is send out a stupid fucking tweet. This will be a political slam dunk, but they still won't do it. It seems like AOC and Bernie Sanders simply don't want people to know about the crimes that Israel is carrying out, like kidnapping Americans. It's almost like Bernie Sanders and AOC is 100% okay with Israel kidnapping Chris Smalls, despite having a previous relationship with them, because Chris Smalls had the audacity to criticize their favorite genocidal girl boss, Kamala Harris. Bernie Sanders and AOC are not our friends. They are not our allies. They are not even good people. They are evil, and they play a very particular role for the ruling class to sheepdog young people into a genocidal Democratic Party.
What's poppin'? What's poppin'? We're back once again. The streak continues. What is this, week 5? I lost count. Week 4? Welcome back to Nick at Primetime. Hope you guys enjoy. I have a lot of topics to cover. Obviously, there was a big summit, which was a giant nothing burger as far as I'm concerned. But I think there's a few important details that we can cover on that. We're also going to cover how Jewish supremacy, this has been an ongoing theme of mine, something that makes liberal Zionists uncomfortable. This is what makes the Bernie Sanders left uncomfortable. People like Chris Smalls, who calls out the genocide of the Israeli state. So we're going to get to the Jewish supremacy story here very soon. I just want to touch a little bit more on this story here. We had Chris Smalls in Arbane. He's a close friend of our network. I love the work that Chris Smalls does. The fact that he went on the flotilla and then was brutally arrested and then tortured by the Israeli government, I think is extremely damning for anyone who called himself a progressive who wouldn't say anything about Chris Smalls. And I know Chris Smalls isn't surprised. I'm not surprised. No one should be surprised that Bernie Sanders and AOC chose their side. They was willing to use him. As I mentioned 1,000 times before, AOC is one of the most unpopular politicians in the United States. Like her approval rating is around, and it hovers around the same as Hillary Clinton's do. Like she's around -10, -15. So of course she used Chris Smalls before the genocide at the height of his popularity during election season to pretend that they are on his side. But then the second that Chris Smalls refused to vote for Kamala Harris, the genocidal girl boss Kamala Harris, and criticized Israel. Not only do Bernie Sanders and AOC want nothing to do with you, if you do such a thing, if you refuse to vote for a Democrat, they will remain silent as Jewish fascists, as a genocidal apartheid state kidnaps you and torture you. That's how petty and that's how dangerous the United States left is. He didn't vote for Kamala Harris, which means he can go fuck himself as far as Bernie Sanders is concerned. This is why I find it unforgivable for people who try to run and rehabilitate the Democratic Party, like what I'm seeing with Zoran Mamdani and the Hassan Piker bros. You have Hassan Piker palling around with Matt Duss, the most genocidal psychopaths that sell genocide to the progressive left, the people who spread the Hamas mass rape hoax, the people who keep saying that Israel just has the right to defend themselves, like Chris Small says. To me, running in this party is disqualifying. Refusing to call out properly the crimes of the state of Israel in terms of kidnapping Americans is disqualifying. But, and I'm saying this for the entirety of the general left, the reason why I have a hostile approach and RBN shook the core of the progressive left, there's a reason why they all despise me, because you guys know, years ago, I was part of the Bernie team, part of the South Carolina organizing efforts. And then RBN was built post-Bernie Sanders, as everyone else grifted and made their money and made their name riding the wave of the Bernie Sanders movement. RBN came in post-Bernie to do an analysis on how the social democrats and democratic socialists have failed us. The previous notion was that these people tried their hardest and there's nothing they can do, so they have to choose a lesser of two evil. No, we made the critique and the analysis that Bernie and AOC are traitors. It's not about failing. It's about the fact that they rather organize and they rather be friends with genocidal Zionists in the Democratic Party and cut off activists if they don't support their party. They've already showed their hand. So I find it like, for all the progressives who continue to run in this party that keep telling you 1,000 ways that they hate you, isn't that embarrassing? This is why when I have Rokan on, I hold his feet to the fire. This is why I held Nina Turner's feet to the fire, and she unfollowed me. Once again, guys, you guys have no idea how many people in the highest levels of the Bernie apparatus was on my side before RBN. Because my position after seeing, because I had to do the experiment, I had to do the electoral experiment one more time, and after seeing the capitalist class do everything they can to destroy the movement for Medicare for All, my position was to double down harder and shift to the far left. Yeah, that's an old story. Guys, you have no idea. All of them used to follow me. Now they block me. They pretend we don't exist anymore. And Nina followed me because I explained that the reason why she lost is because she threw BDS under the bus. Because she is weak on the Democratic establishment. She is weak on white supremacy. That's the same thing they got Dr. Cornel West triggered. How can you say you're weak on white supremacy? You voted for Jim Crow Joe. Nina Turner endorsed Jim Crow Joe. There's no tolerance for me if you're calling yourself a black leftist and you're voting for one of the most anti-black, or probably the most anti-black politician in the modern era, and you're not used to being critiqued to your left. You're used to stupid-ass right-wing critiques, but I will look at you straight in your face and tell you you are weak on white supremacy for praising Alexei Navalny like Nina Turner and Cornel West did. Alexei Navalny is a neo-Nazi. So when I say I have a no-tolerance stance on Nazism and white supremacy, when I say it, I mean it. What the performative black left do, they say, I don't accept, I don't tolerate any racism unless it's Jim Crow Joe. Unless it's coming from a Zionist. Unless it's coming from a white liberal, then they all for it. But my original point, I come straight here. My original point is, even though I had insider access, like during my tour in South Carolina, people were trying to persuade me to run for office. I had the progressive connections, but I declined and decided to be hostile and adversarial to these people. because I saw the role that they were playing. They play a very particular role to dumb down what it means to be a socialist, dumb down what it means to be anti-establishment, and shift what it means to be a socialist to the right, to lead the working class off a cliff and waste all of our time and our money and our resources by creating a suitable left for the establishment that will support and endure genocide. That's their role. They are not the best among us. They will quickly sell us out. So enough of us asking for these people to show up. I don't even want them to be part of my team. We need an adversarial, anti-establishment, anti-Zionist, anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist third party that is hostile to every single member of the duopoly, including Bernie Sanders and AOC. Because what Bernie Sanders, AOC, and Zoran Mamdani, what they are doing, they are rehabilitating the genocidal party that has waged class war on the working class my entire life. And I have zero tolerance for these gray-haired leftists, these failures, these people who've been endorsing Democrats their entire life, these people who've been in DFA for decades. You guys know DFA is a decades-old organization, CIA cutout organization. You guys have been trying this strategy, and you are old and you are gray and you have zero victories for the working class to show for it, but you're doing the same shit, just trying the same shit, and then confused when it don't work. And then you turn around at young leftists like RBN and then tell and wag your finger at us and then claim that we're being childish for supporting third parties. This is what I've been dealing with the entire time of being in this space. That's what Crystal Ball said. If you want to support Jill Stein, you need to grow up. As these people not only have nothing to show, because whenever I say these failure leftists have nothing to show for the working class for their work, that's actually taking it easy. Because not only do you guys have nothing to show for it, your attempt to shift the Democratic Party to the left was such a failure. After 7 to 8 years of the Bernie Project, what we got out of that attempt was a genocide, was strikes being broken. No Medicare for all, no student loan forgiveness, nothing from your shit-lived agenda. And now, as people are pretending that Democrats will ever listen to the left on Israel, which is ridiculous because the Democratic Party is an explicitly Zionist party. Explicitly. You have all these people making resolutions. And we're gonna reform the DNC and we're gonna pass a resolution to make it so they don't support genocide in the future. I have a better idea. Instead of trying to reform a genocidal party and passing referendums to make sure they don't commit genocide again, how about you abandon any party that commits genocide and support genocide? That is infested with Zionists who will never change their position because they are more loyal to the state of Israel and to Zionism than they will ever be to the American working class. Because as you have these progressives advocating for these anti-Israel resolutions, you want to know who's there stopping them? Jewish Democrats. Jewish Democrats are pushing for defeat of a resolution calling for an arms embargo and advocating for a competing pro-Israel resolution backed by the DNC chair. This guy was specifically chosen in order to keep the Democratic Party pro-Israel. So even now, as you guys continue this delusional project, thinking that the election of Zoran Mamdani would change your party, you have the leadership at the highest level still being ran by Jewish supremacists and Christian Zionists who refuse to support an arms embargo, which is supported by 70% of the Democratic Party. Actually, the number may be higher. I think 70% is the general population. I don't know. I got to fact check my numbers. But the point is, the vast majority of your own party supports this, and you still refuse to support it. And people think that they are making any sort of effort to shift this party to the left. How many times do the Democratic Party have to tell you, fuck you, before you have dignity and you move on? You notice we're not begging Ro Khanna to show up at an RBN event. We're not asking Zoran Mamdani, Bernie Sanders, AOC to support us. We don't want their support. Every single time you have seen one of these people on the channel, it's because they reached out to us. And they trying to win us over. Like when Ro Khanna came on RBN and asked me if I would ever vote for a Bernie Sanders candidate again, I said, hell no. The same way Marianne Williamson tried to come on here and explain why we should support liberal Zionism, and I roasted her ass. But the content of what I roasted her over went over the head of many progressives because that was before the genocide. So people didn't understand before that because we had the dumb left. Before that, they didn't even understand why saying Israel has the right to defend themselves is a offensive statement. I like the Vanguard, all these people who like Vosh and them who reviewed my conversation with Marianne Williamson because they was in cult mode, because they realized that interview killed all legitimacy of her as a left candidate. They thought I was being unreasonable because that was before the genocide. When I said, Marianne Williamson, you are out of your goddamn mind if you believe you are a left candidate and you support Israel's right to defend itself. And you still advocating for a two-state solution. And I wasn't any Johnny-come-latelys, my friend. I've been advocating for this, and I've been talking about this for a very, very, very long time. Now, because playing nice with Zionism isn't really working, I think this is the moment to see if people have guts or not. And many people have been revealed as gutless cowards who are afraid to call this problem out for what it really is, the problem and scourge of Jewish supremacy. The idea that it's our job, it's our obligation to serve these people, to get our taxpayer money so they can buy and fund weapons. If you advocate for health care for Americans, you are a dirty socialist commie. But we're willing to send our taxpayer money to subsidize Israeli health care because they are God-chosen people. We are even willing to allow these God-chosen people to come to America, pursue sex with children, and engage in sexual crimes and let them off the hook. So we can transition here. This will be our second story. So that'll be the end of our first segment, Zoya. But let's move on to this here. This is, you guys realize this is institutionalized Jewish supremacy. This is what Norman Finkelstein been calling it. And I've taken much love of calling that as well, calling it what it is as well. What do you call it when you believe that the Jewish people, that God-chosen people, are above the law? This is not conspiracies. This is the direct definition of what it means to be a Jewish supremacist. If you believe that Jewish people are above the law and they have the right to do whatever they want to non-Jews, to the Goyim, as possible. They can do whatever they want to them. And this is what they are taught as young children, that everyone exists to serve Zionism and the Jewish elites, and everyone who don't, their life is worthless and might as well be killed, might as well be destroyed. You had the chief rabbi in Israel explained how, yeah, our soldiers, we have the right to rape, because in our scripture, anyone who wages war against the Jews and you're a non-Jew, there's no rules to what we can do to you. Of course we will rape you. Israel has proven time and time again that they are a disgusting pro-rape sex cult, And people don't even realize that this is institutionalized. That because of the horrifically distorted right of return by the Zionists, they reject the Palestinian right to return, but they allow any Jewish person, any Israeli, to come back to Israel in order to flee from crime from Western states. And Israel facilitates that as policy. And as policy, they will never, ever extradite a Jewish Israeli to another country if they are accused of committing a crime. So knowing this, that is why there is a scourge of Jewish pedophiles, which is protected by the United States as policy. And I'm not exaggerating. This is the headline that started off this. Israeli official arrested in Nevada child sex operation is released and back in Israel. So this story is insanity. Not only do you have the attorney general that was working in coordination with this, and not even just an Israeli official, it's the lead in cyber intelligence who was handpicked by Benjamin Netanyahu. This is not an average Israeli, a random person. This is someone in the upper echelon. Yeah, here it is. The cybersecurity chief for Bibi. Someone who was hand selected, and they got a call directly from Netanyahu in Israel and Donald Trump to release this person who work in the highest level of Israeli government. Look, this is coming from the Henderson County, Nevada officers in law enforcement. I have now confirmed with officers involved in this thing that the Trump administration personally intervened at Israel's request. I told everyone that MAGA is a pedophile protection movement. Zionism is inherently a pedophile protection movement. They're inherently a culture that advocate for deviancy. These are the same people who was hitting the streets and protesting their own government because they had an idea and thought about charging Israeli guards with raping a Palestinian man to death. But you gotta know what the Israeli government did. They listened to their people. They saw the outrage from the Israelis. They saw that the people wanted members of the IDF to have the right to rape Palestinians to death. So like a true democracy, they listened to their people and they allowed the IDF to rape Palestinians, and they freed the prison guards who raped the Palestinians to death. So we have the Trump administration, the United States government teaming with Israel to override U.S. law enforcement. And they overrode their own federal law enforcement that was involved in this thing to make sure that Alexandrovich got back to Israel safely. So do you guys know you have been called all sorts of anti-Semite, which is, we explain and we know in the RBN community is bullshit. You would have been called an anti-Semite if you said at any point in time that the United States government institutionally facilitates and the release and the protection of Jewish pedophiles. If I put out a video last year or any time where I said the United States government protects Jewish pedophiles, would have been tarred and feathered. Probably would have been banned immediately. This is the Grok fact check that X forcibly deleted, because now the White House is coming out and denying this, saying no, we didn't help Israel protect a Jewish pedophile, ignoring the fact that there was like 8 other people involved in this thing who was not released, who was arrested. So here's the AI fact check that was later deleted by Elon Musk. Yes, reports confirm Trump administration intervened at Israel's request to release Tom Alexandrovich, arrested in a U.S. child predator sting, allowing his swift return despite felony charges. And this is the U.S. attorney that oversaw this, because if you was the attorney, wouldn't you raise all sorts of red flags about this? Nope. Because guess who was the attorney who allowed this? A Jewish Israeli attorney. How'd you read the tweet? The interim U.S. attorney responsible for not prosecuting Netanyahu's Israeli government official for child pedophilia. This is her, Sigal Chattah, an Israeli-born lawyer, and she said she was running to be America's #1 conservative attorney general. So in the United States, we have Israelis who infiltrated our legal system, and they are now lawyers and they are judges. And do you guys believe that these people, after letting this convicted pedophile go, do you guys think these Zionist lawyers and judges are looking at cases involving Jewish people and Zionists? Do you think they are looking at this objectively? Do you think they're looking at every case objectively? How many times have this happened and we don't know about it? Our government and our legal system is infested with Israelis, Christian Zionists, Jewish supremacists. How can anyone trust the United States legal system after this? How can anyone trust that they will ever try an Israeli, a Jewish person freely? I now question every single fucking thing that they have told us about anti-Semitism, because if you were to bring this up, if you brought this up earlier, they would have called you a conspiracy theorist. They would have called you a conspiracy theorist if he told you there was lawyers running to be the attorney general who was Israeli, and their only concern was protecting Jewish people from accountability in the law. So you guys see how we have institutionalized Jewish supremacy. But people are too afraid to call it out. You can call a Palestinian, but God forbid you call out Jewish supremacy, where these people who are overrepresented in law school already, the insane amount of Jewish Zionist law school students that are admitted, and then become lawyers, who become judges. They have completely infiltrated our legal system, and now want to work with the Israeli government and the corrupt United States regime to give immunity to these Israeli scumbags. So what does that say to them? What message are we sending to these crazy assholes? We are telling them that if you come to the United States, you can do whatever you want to the Goyim. You can do whatever you want to non-Jews, and the United States government has your back. Why do you guys think this person at the highest level of the Israeli government, who was a chief cybersecurity officer, why would he risk his entire career to fuck a child? To try to set up a date with a 14-year-old. He does that because he knows he will never be tried. There will never be justice. So these Israelis, they take vacations to America to commit sex crimes. There was a story of a Israeli diplomat in Florida that killed 2 people drunk driving, who was released. So do you understand what the United States is? The United States is a country where Israelis and Jewish nationalists come knowing they have a get-out-of-jail-free card, and they can commit any crime they want because they know they have an army of lawyers who are loyal to their people. Quick question. Where are all the Jewish organizations that are condemning this? Don't worry, I'll wait. So you have the United States government that is bastardizing their already horrific right to return in order to protect pedophiles. They are bastardizing their own religion. You would think that Jewish organizations will come out viciously against this. You're using our holy land? You're using my right to return as a way to protect pedophiles, but you want to know what's not happening? You're not hearing a goddamn thing from any Jewish organization about this goddamn story. Not only are you not hearing any condemnation from Jewish organizations, Zionists are avoiding this story like the plague. Laura Loomer has nothing to say about this damn story. Laura Loomer wants you to be invested over the 10 trans kids in sports across the country, and she pretends that there's this, or she presents that there's this cabal of leftist sexual predators that is rallying behind the LGBTQ flag because the LGBTQ community are secret pedophiles. As she smear gay people, and as the right smear gay people as being dangerous to children, Laura Loomer has fucking nothing to say about this. The Jewish community has nothing to say about this. Can you imagine if there was a systemic? You guys realize that, and Zionism is so absurd, it's hard to come up with parallels. Like, how can you come up with a parallel that matches this? But no, you guys realize that Muslim organizations, despite it being extremely unfair, they all came out and condemned Al-Qaeda. They all came out and condemned ISIS. Not only did they condemn radical Islamic jihad, you had Muslims who took up arms against radical jihad. Where are the Jewish people taking up arms against Israel? Where are the Jewish people taking up arms against the Zionists? Once again, I repeat, during the war on terror, there was many Muslims who took up arms against terrorist groups, but you won't find a single Jewish organization that has taken up arms against the Zionist regime. You know what they would do instead? You have these liberal Zionists who pretend they support Palestinians, like Bernie Sanders and the entire progressive left, who would then condemn Palestinian resistance. Because this is an old story. This is not new. You guys see, I'm trying my best to avoid framing this as a Trump thing, even though I would love to do that. I'll make a few jabs here and there about how MAGA is a pedophile protection movement, because that is a fact. That is a fact that they are protecting pedophiles, and they prioritize that over helping and supporting Americans. But this is not just a Donald Trump story. This is systemic. And this has been going on for a very, very long time. And before, God bless all the soldiers who was telling the truth. God bless all the soldiers who noticed for decades and was smeared as anti-Semite as a response. And many people in the left probably went along with it. Like 10 years ago, if you talk about this, imagine if I was like, man, the United States government systemically protects Jewish pedophiles. If I said that in 2015, I would have been canceled immediately as one of the most insane, raging anti-Semites that ever existed. But this is fact. This is from CBS, who's even forced to acknowledge this. How Jewish American pedophiles hide from justice in Israel. And this was released 5 years ago. A problem that is consistent among Democrats and Republican presidents. This, and big shout out to my mutual who sent me this. That's a funny name, Broccoli Tickles. Look at this. 1962. This goes back 60 years, my friend. Do you guys see the article? This is an article explaining the problems and the rampant problems of the rise of sex offenders in Israel. Look, penitentiary aspects of the problem of sex offenders in Israel. I don't know if you guys can see the font here, but that date says spring 1962. The March issue or whatever it is criminal law journal was. So ever since the establishment, and this is probably always with the end goal of the Jewish pedophiles, of the Zionist nationalists who was calling for an Israeli state decades before it happened. They always envisioned a safe land where Jewish criminals can go to be above the law. So what is going on right now is exactly as designed. And the question you should be asking yourself at this horrific revelation that Israel is a pro-rape society, it should horrify you that liberal Zionists never say anything about this. You guys notice this? Bernie Sanders wants you to believe the only problem with Israel is the Netanyahu government. Show me the Bernie Sanders tweet where he's calling out Trump over this story. Show me the tweet from AOC where she is outraged over Donald Trump protecting Jewish pedophiles. Where is Zora Mamdani on this slam dunk issue? They're not touching it. Because as liberal Zionists, it's their job to keep Israel appealing to the left. To make sure we never, ever question its legitimacy. Never understand how barbaric and how disgusting they are. Bernie Sanders, to this day, still repeats the bullshit Hamas mass rape hoax. But he never brought up how the Israelis rape Palestinian men to death. He never mentioned one time of the Palestinian girls and the Palestinian boys that have been mass raped by the IDF. You want to know who's the only politician who is allowed to say something about this? Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is allowed to be the bad guy, who's the same way she's allowed to speak up about the Ukraine war, she's allowed to call out Jewish pedophiles. They allow her to say this stuff because they will then say, oh, look at you, Nick. You are aligned with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I explained this 1,000 times. So she is given the green light to say this stuff because that's how our WWE-like politics work. Why did our government release a child sex predator from Israel who works directly under the Prime Minister of Israel? And now Netanyahu is lying and completely denying it. Yeah, that's do I have their denial state? I'm gonna have to find it. But this is the point I just made earlier. I love that Marjorie Taylor Greene made this point. Why isn't Mark Levin pitching a hissy fit over this? Where's Fox News? That you guys, I thought you guys all about protecting the children. Why isn't Mark Levin running this story? This is a gigantic scandal. The United States just helped protect a high-level official of a genocidal government to escape a crime. And you telling me that no one in corporate media is going to cover this? I keep my eye on corporate media. No one in MSNBC, no one in, I should say MS Now. CNN, nobody in corporate media is covering this. So going back to the topic of Jewish supremacy, which a lot of people want to do, ask yourself why that is. Why are the Western media refusing to cover this story? Is it because our media is ran by a cabal of Jewish supremacists? It's almost like Zionists control our media. You know, the same thing that would have got you called an anti-Semite 10 years ago? You guys see why I am beginning to question. I want to say beginning, or a bit. I'm questioning everything they told me about anti-Semitism. I'm not one of these cuck leftists that want pats on my back by these genocidal Zionists. Oh, don't you know he's a good leftist? He says anti-Semitism is real. That's how they treating Zoran Mamdani. That's how they treat AOC. Don't you know she thinks she signed on to the anti-Semitism resolution? Fuck you. I am questioning every single thing you guys told me about anti-Semitism. Because remember how they told you guys that it's anti-Semitic if you say that Jewish people have heavy influence over Hollywood? And then you got Gal Gadot, who can't act to save her motherfucking life, who gets all these high-profile blockbuster movies. And you have all these celebrities who refuse to say anything about Israel. You have all these black celebrities that are coming out as Zionists. But people think you're going too far when you say Hollywood is controlled by Jews. That is a typical anti-Semitic trope. Kalel now. Kalel now. That's Gal Gadot when she saw Superman about to save civilians from being murdered. Kalel now. Look, is it an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory? Gal Gadot joins hostage families in Israel amid nationwide movement to end the Gaza war. So Gal Gadot, who joined the IDF during their genocidal offensive in Lebanon in 2006, she is a war criminal. And she is rewarded despite being the worst actress of all time. But if you was to notice these things, you will get called an anti-Semite. That's why I'm like, bro, I'm not, as you guys are agreeing with them on this stuff and slow walking yourself into fascism, we should have zero tolerance for this nonsense. Zero tolerance for institutionalized Jewish supremacy. And now we get into how Israel is a barbaric, the general theme of this segment, how they are a rape cult. They are a disgusting society that doesn't deserve to exist. Because Bernie Sanders and all the Western feminists who lied about the mass rapes that Hamas committed on October 7th, because we know the role of feminism is to smear black and brown men as sexist and as rapists in order to justify white violence, in order to justify the police state, in order to justify imperialism. This is one of the reasons why we completely reject liberalism. We reject this feminist liberal bullshit ideology. This is why every single fucking liberal feminist wants to nuke Gaza. Because they think Gaza is full of fucking sexists, full of homophobes. And what makes Western feminism so disgusting is as they smear black and brown men as being rapists, just like they did during the Jim Crow era, the same way they smear Native Americans as being beasts who can't wait to rape the white women. This is a long-term feminist white strategy that they use. So as they smear, and as progressives like AOC, Bernie Sanders, all these people smear Hamas and smear Palestinians as rapists, notice that they never in a million years bring up the proven systemic sexual violence that Israel engages in. More than a human can bear, Israel's systemic use of sexual, reproductive, and other forms of gender-based violence since October 2023. Israel is a society, an idea. This is my viral tweet. Damn, did I put up? No, I did not saw the likes and retweets on this. Damn, not bad. I said the IDF raped so much, Israel has a hard time preventing them from raping each other. That's actually a joke I said before, but hey, man, if it bangs, it bangs. The IDF rapes so much, Israel has a hard time preventing them from raping each other. So not only do they go to countries where Jewish supremacy is law, and they rape and they prey on the children of the Goyim, of the non-Jews. And not only do they do that, they can't even get enough of it to the point where they do it to their own people. You guys see that middle headline? 90% of rape cases in Israel close without indictment. A soldier killed herself after reporting she was raped. Female IDF soldiers was pimped IDF officer charged with sexual assault of 3 female subordinates. You guys think I'm handpicking these? Bro, you can go all day with these stories. And you guys realize these are the stories that the Western media is covering. Do you have any idea how horrific this issue actually is? If we have this many stories, if we have this many convictions, if we have this many Israelis and Zionists that have been investigated by our Jewish supremacist legal system, you must know that this problem is 100 times worse. Because for every single one of these stories, look, you guys see for that blue one on the top, it's that 17 Israeli soldiers investigated in rape case. How many rape cases are even being investigated? So how many of these headlines, I should say, how many times have this been done before a single story is written about this? Because we just seen another example of a Jewish pedophile who would have went free, and this story would have went completely unreported if it wasn't for on-the-ground journalists who dug up records from, I believe, the Henderson law agency or whatever. 3 Israeli officers charged with raping, sodomizing female comrades. And you guys see how the same way the United States Armed Services have a massive rape problem is very similar to the state of Israel. But you guys realize that I am just scratching the surface. If I was to do, or if anyone was to do a stream covering the sexual deviant culture of Israel and what is endorsed by Jewish organizations, we will be here all day. Because it has been mostly reported by Israeli media, but avoided by all Western media, how there's investigations into these deeply religious Jewish groups in Israel that essentially operate as a sex rape cult, where they kidnap their fellow Israelis. They kidnap women. I'll just say they kidnap women, and they treat them as sexual slaves. And the women describe years of abuse, including rape and torture, masked as spiritual rituals. So I have done a lot of reading on this because I never had real time to explain this story. But there's this very radical cult of Judaism within Israel, apparently, that is engaging in these massive rape rituals where they kidnap women. And the Israeli Knesset and many of the leadership in Israel are actively protecting this sex rape code, saying that they have religious freedom and they don't have enough evidence that this is some sort of systemic problem. Look, let me read the headline. I'm mostly summing it up here. Survivors testified to Knesset about childhood sexual abuse network and Israeli religious ceremonies. They described the years of abuse, rape, and ritual masked as spiritual rituals, as well as systemic silencing and neglect from authorities. Let me read that again because my speech impediment fucked up again. As well as systemic silencing and neglect from authorities. So not only do they have a mass sex rape cult in Israel, it is actively being covered up by the Likud party and government officials in Israel. Meanwhile, you can't get a single goddamn story written by the West about this. This is a story I had to go back 2 months. I do believe this was The Guardian, if I remember right. This was 2 months ago. Why isn't this a massive scandal? Israel has state-sponsored rape cults, and they were getting away with it. But not only do they believe they have the right to rape the Goyim and the non-Jews, not only do they believe they have and they engage in raping each other. If you go into Israel, especially as a non-Jew, someone that they already view you as someone who is below the law. They already view you as someone who is just cattle to be victim of Jewish crime. But if you are a non-Jew and you go into Israel, you better keep your head on a swivel, to say the least. And I end this statement on this. I'm gonna quickly touch on the Trump Zelensky European summit, but this will be the last story I show, just to scratch the surface of the problem of mass sexual criminal behavior within the Jewish community, within the Zionist community. I say Jewish community, I'm gonna keep saying it until you guys condemn this. None of these Jewish organizations are coming out and speaking about this story. It's almost as if 99.2% of Jewish organizations support this nonsense. Look, they had Thai workers. They had all these Thai agricultural workers that was working in Israel. And I don't know the detail on this. I don't know if this was some sort of program that was under. They have all these Thai women that was working in Israel. There was around 654 of them. And they surveyed all of them. And 654 out of the 654 that was surveyed said that they was reportedly sexually assaulted while in Israel. And this is according to WikiLeaks. Something else that will not be reported by mainstream media. That, you guys understand how batshit crazy that is? 100% of foreign female workers said it was sexually assaulted while in Israel. So these people really believe they are above the law. And if you're in Israel, oh boy, they're going to do whatever to you, whatever they want to you. If you're a Christian, they're going to spit on you. This is a sick, twisted society. And if people think I'm going hard, to me, it's crazy that people are not matching my level, because believe it or not, I'm actually holding back as I do these presentations because I don't want to hurt the channel more than I already have with my loud mouth. I'm already holding back. I don't know how anyone sees what's going on who are witnessing and living through the genocide, that are cool and are rational, that are forgiving of this culture. It is just a fact, and people can cope and see that me saying this all they want. You had Jewish organization that had a chance. The Jewish community had a chance to save their religion and to peel their culture away from Zionism, and they chose not to. I'm not the one who decided to tie Judaism with Zionism. I am not the one who decided to tie Judaism with a sex cult. That is a decision that Jewish leaders made. So for all the people who say Zionism is not Judaism, everybody in Judaism is disagreeing with you. All the rabbis are disagreeing with you. And the few anti-Zionist rabbis that we have been sanctioned and condemned by the Jewish community. So I go hard at my own community. How many times I go hard at black neoliberals? How many times have I gone after and condemned the black church? Meanwhile, these Jewish people can't condemn their own for supporting rape and pedophilia. When are we going to stop holding these people's hands? Anyway, let's move on. Let's quickly cover this. I don't want to do another 2-hour stream. I don't want to do another 2-hour stream. But I do want to quickly cover this. We covered on Friday, my Friday show. We had a pretty big stream. How done by Vladimir Putin, where Putin essentially showed up, laid his list of demands, explained to the American people why our government has been lying to them about this conflict, and he dipped. He let them know that you guys have no cards here. I'm not conceding any of my demands on Ukraine. You guys are losing. Take the L and give up, nerds. That's essentially what Putin said. So now, in order to do damage control, they have this meeting with Zelensky, which is essentially a gigantic waste of time. And it is a giant propaganda campaign that is meant to sell the Ukraine war to the American people. And that is what Donald Trump's goal was. And I said this before, I think his plan was to make Putin seem unreasonable. That's why he got schooled. And it did not go the way he wanted to. So they had to call a huddle. and they panicking now. So they had all the European leaders meet today, and they essentially reconfirmed. And I have some clips. Actually, let's watch some clips. I have some clips of this. After seeing this European summit, after seeing the Trump Putin summit, I'm glad to say I was 100% right when I said I 100% did not believe that Trump was going to deliver peace in Ukraine, because the entire goal is to tank peace. I think I gotta reload this. Let me reload this and I'll share it. Oh Jesus! And when you watch the summit, it was a quick 20-minute summit where they all went around. Every single major European leader essentially explained why we will never, ever seek peace with Russia. And when you hear these people diagnose the how we fix this problem, how we negotiate with Russia, it's clear that none of these people are serious about peace, because you had these European leaders that were saying, hey man, we're not having any peace unless Russia gives up all Ukrainian land. That is what Friedrich Merz was saying. That is what Giorgia Meloni from Italy was saying. They were saying we are not conceding land, including the Donbass region, where their own civilians voted to be part of Russia, where most of they are Russian-speaking people who favor being part of Russia. They voted via referendum for this. Crimea, and this is what the Western media never tells you. They say Russia seized Crimea. Okay, quick question. For all the people who like Russia engaged in imperialist action because they seized Crimea, how many Russian soldiers did they lose? Name me a battle. Name me the biggest battle during the Russian Crimea War. It doesn't exist. You want to know why? Because the vast majority of the Crimea people voted to be part of Russia at around an 85% clip, to the point where the Crimean military literally dropped their arms and stood down and allowed Russia to claim Crimea, because Crimea, as a self-determined people, wanted to be part of the Russian Federation. Despite all these facts that the Western media won't tell you, the fact that the Crimea, they lay down their arms and allow Russia to take, they are saying that they want to return Crimea to Ukraine, which is how you know they're not serious about this war and any possible solution to this war. Actually, let me play you this clip here to highlight what I mean. Trump has no idea what he's doing. Let me load this clip first. Look. Oh, shit. Do I have the right? Damn. This is, yeah, this is it. Look, President Trump says Ukraine war will end, but he doesn't know when or how.
Vladimir Putin mentioned that the war will not end without addressing the root causes of this war. Have you had an understanding what are the root causes of this war?
Well, look, the war is going to end. When it ends, I can't tell you, but the war is going to end, and this gentleman wants it to end.
You know that Trump is not serious about this because he don't know what the root cause is, or he's pretending he don't know because he is the root cause. He enabled this conflict as he armed the fascist Ukrainian regime as it was shelling ethnic Russians in the Donbass. And clearly, by him agreeing with European leaders, because European leaders at the White House was saying how we got to support security guarantees. And Trump was like, yeah, we got to consider that. You don't know that is the root cause. Russia don't want any Western influence or interference into Ukraine. So for you to even float the idea that you consider any sort of NATO-like guarantees shows that you're not serious. Yeah, sorry. Let me play the entirety of Trump's comment.
Look, the war is going to end. When it ends, I can't tell you, but the war is going to end, and this gentleman wants it to end, and Vladimir Putin wants it to end. I think the whole world is tired of it, and we're going to get it ended. It was, I've done 6 wars. I've ended 6 wars, and I thought this maybe would be the easiest one, and it's not the easiest one. It's a tough one. A lot of a lot of reasons for it, and they'll be talking about it for a long time, but they'll be talking about the others. Look, India, Pakistan, we're talking about big places. When you look at, you just take a look at some of these wars. You go to Africa and take a look at that, Rwanda, and the
Trump had nothing to do with any of this. Like, this is why MAGA supporters, Trump supporters are arguably the dumbest people, because Trump can just lie and they will just believe him. How can you say you ended 6 wars when Israel is literally still committing a genocide in Gaza that you supported? How can you say you're ending the war when Israel is literally invading Syria? You didn't end any of these conflicts. You have India and Pakistan that's like, bro, we don't know you. You didn't do anything about this. But this is a deflection by Trump. I'll let it continue. There's no point even me commenting on this nonsense, because this is deflection, because essentially Trump has no idea, as he mentioned in referencing the question, on how to end this.
Take a look at that, Rwanda and the Congo, Republic of the Congo. That's been going on for 31 years. And so we've done a total of 6, and we really have 6, not including the fact that we obliterated, and it turned out to be a total obliteration, the nuclear, as you said, the future nuclear capability of Iran.
Bro, it doesn't matter how many times you say it, it doesn't make it true. I didn't find this tweet, but someone highlighted how on Truth Social, Donald Trump has tweeted that he destroyed Iran's nuclear facility every single day for like the last 2 weeks. Because it's not true. We have explained many times before that they had no intel. They can't even confirm whether their busting bomb can destroy Iranian nuclear facilities. There's no way they can confirm that. They didn't even know where the Iranian nuclear facility was. And it has also been confirmed that this bunker buster bomb does not have the power to penetrate and dismantle these nuclear programs. And even if they did, Iran can just make another one because they still have the knowledge and the know-how. But Trump has to repeat this because that was just another gigantic failure in United States policy that he tries to convince his supporters is not. And this is just more historical revisionism. This is what we mentioned, how Trump is saying that this is Biden's war. No, this is your war too. There's a reason why Putin is not negotiating with you. There's a reason why he's not conceding anything. He is punishing and he is humiliating Trump on the global stage. That's why he humiliated Donald Trump when he visited the White House. Because despite what many people in the United States may believe, Putin understands that Trump played a very important, crucial role in starting the Ukraine conflict by supporting the Banderite regime in Ukraine. So when Trump says that this is Biden war, this is him punting the ball and him not wanting this failure of a war to be on his legacy, which it 100% is.
And as you met with Putin on Friday, today you've got President Zelensky here. As you listen to Russia and Ukraine, which side has the better cards?
Well, I don't want to say that. I'm just here to be, look, this isn't my war. This is Joe Biden's war. He's the one that had a lot to do with this happening, and we want to get it ended. And we want it to end good for everybody. We want it to end good. The people of Ukraine have suffered incredibly.
President Zelensky.
So this is mostly political theater. Like I said, I watch pro wrestling. I know a work when I see one. I know some fake shit when I see one. This entire meeting, you do not have to watch it. It's 20 minutes of everyone going around and explaining why we can't trust Putin, at least when it comes to the European leaders. And then you have Trump during this meeting that's saying, I want peace, but I'm going to do the thing that makes sure peace is not possible. You can have peace tomorrow if you stop arming the fascist Ukrainian regime, and which will force them to the negotiation table. You can play hardball. You can create the tariffs, whatever you want on Europe. You can stop this war immediately. You could have stopped this war from day one, like you said. You just refused because Donald Trump's job is to lead his supporters down this pro wrestling storyline. Every pro wrestling storyline has a turn and a twist which is supposed to get the audience invested. His job is to get the GOP and get to the Republican Party invested into this war and convince them that it's Putin that's being unreasonable, which is why they have this meeting where they're pretending that Zelensky wants peace, when we know that's not true. And do you guys remember how I said Donald Trump's role and the reason why he was allowed to win is because the establishment desperately needed to sell the Ukraine war to the right wing. Both parties are on board when it comes to the Greater Israel Project. Both parties are on board when it comes to waging war on China. You had resistance when it came to the MAGA right under the Biden administration on Ukraine. So that was dangerous. That's scary for the ruling class. Can't have that. So what they had instead is, hey man, let's have Donald Trump win again, have him pretend he's going to end the war, and then when he fails to end the war because he's deeply unserious, he then turns to Republicans and say, hey man, we have no choice but to bring Putin to heel. And guess what? As I predicted over a year ago, it is working like a charm. I told you guys, man, the ruling class is locked in, bro. The ruling class is on an all-time generational run right now because their plan is working on the stupid Republican base. Look, quite the switcheroo. Stark increase in GOP support for Ukraine. Here we go. Here are all the Republicans. Remember all the polls when people say, oh, Republicans actually don't support the Ukraine war. It's mostly Democrats who support the Ukraine war. Isn't that wild? Does that mean we will end the war if we support Republicans? That's what people say. I was like, no. Because it's easy to oppose a war when your forever enemy, the hill you're fighting, your wrestling rival, whenever the party you need to take out, whenever they're promoting a war, it's easy to be against the war then. As Democrats, when it came to the war on terror, it was easy to oppose the war on terror when it was George W. Bush Jr. But the second Barack Obama took charge, they started legally explaining why he has the right to bomb hospitals. You guys see why the duopoly will forever and always will be a dead end for any serious movement? Donald Trump's job was to sell the Ukraine war to resist the MAGA base, and he is winning. A large majority of Republicans believe that Ukraine and Europe should get a seat at the table in negotiations and support more sanctions on Russia. So mission successful. This is why they love Donald Trump. And essentially, in a nutshell, I don't have to be that long on this segment because Trump met with European leaders in the White House. Trump met with Putin, all to set up this storyline in order to convince them that we have no choice but to wage war against Putin. This is why even Donald Trump is saying stuff like, hey, man, I have no idea how long this war is going to last now. That's why Trump is saying, he says the Ukraine war will end, but doesn't know when or how. So we will continue to follow this. I would have gave it maybe a 1 or a 2%. Let's say I would have gave it a 2% chance that there was going to be peace in Ukraine before the Trump European Zelensky meeting. Let's say there's 2% of me that is delusional enough to believe that maybe I was wrong. Because I'm not that much of an egomaniac. I was thinking like maybe there's a 2% chance I might be wrong on this. Maybe I misread the situation. Maybe Trump actually will pursue peace. Maybe Putin may concede on something. If there was a 2% chance of that happening after the summit that happened yesterday, that is now 0.2%. Yeah, I agree with you, Chicago girl. If there was a sliver of me that believed that peace was possible, that shit is dead now. After witnessing this summit, every single leader, including Trump, but especially Zelensky, they are completely delusional about what it would take to end this war. Which is how you know this war will not end. So I'm gonna keep this stream short, man. I've been doing a lot of 2-hour streams recently. I also had a stream with my friend Anon and Henry from I was on his YouTube channel. I'm blank on the name, but I was on Anon's and Henry's. He was on my show last week. We will air that on our channel on Thursday. Sorry, it's been a long show. But I did a 2-hour show damn near yesterday too. Had a banger string on Friday breaking down the summit. So I'm gonna keep this one around 70 minutes. I will be back on Wednesday though. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe. Make sure you guys share their clips. Make sure you guys share our channel. That will help us break the algorithm. I appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of your night, y'all. Peace out.